Jordan Peterson explains how it's possible that surgeons are so willing to remove healthy body parts from minors in the name of healthcare. All right, let's see what Peterson has to say here.
The upside of surgery is that you get to be a surgeon and that you can help people. But the downside of surgery is you get to cut people up. Now, if you're particularly empathic, the probability that you're going to be a surgeon is pretty damn low, because if you're particularly empathic, the barrier to having to make the hard decisions and actually make incisions and that sort of thing, that's a very high barrier on the empathy side. So generally speaking, you're going to get surgeons who are lower in empathy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the ultimate extreme of that is that a non-trivial percentage of people in those occupations who have a sadistic bent. And if you don't think that's true, then you don't know. You certainly don't know enough to be a therapist, and you certainly don't know enough to formulate policy properly. And I'm certainly not saying that all surgeons are sadistic, but I am saying if you are sadistic and you have a medical bent, then surgery is a perfectly lovely place to end up. And I can't help but wonder in my darker moments just how much underground pleasure the butchers are taking in precisely their butchery.
So, yeah, he raises an interesting point there. You know, it's surgeon is one of the top professions for psychopaths, actually. So by psychopath, I mean somebody with no conscience, somebody who sees other human beings as just objects, right? So to them, kicking a baby is no different than kicking a bag of rice. It's hard to get your mind around that there are people that really just do see you as an object, right? Who have no compassion, no empathy. They just don't care. They don't understand why anybody else would care. They're not worried about what happens to you. They're worried about themselves and what they get out of whatever's happening, whatever your relationship is, whatever your transaction is with them, whatever your relationship is with them, right? But surgeon is one of the top ones as well, because you can see why, right? It's a lot easier to cut into a person if you don't even really see them as a person. So is it surprising that you'd see, you know, so many surgeons that'd be willing to cut the healthy breasts off of a 15-year-old? Or cut somebody's genitals off? If the surgeon just doesn't care or even understand why it would matter.
The upside of surgery is that you get to be a surgeon and that you can help people. But the downside of surgery is you get to cut people up.
Any rational person can understand that a child obviously cannot give informed consent for things like puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, certainly not for double mastectomies, you know, chemical castration or surgical castration. No child can give informed consent on any of this, right? Any rational person knows this. And I think most of the leftists understand that too. They just won't say it. They won't admit that they know it. There's no profit in it for them to admit what is just clearly obvious. I mean, it's not very hard. I mean, it's a pretty easy case to make, right? Nobody wants to, you know, allow 12-year-olds to smoke cigarettes. 14-year-olds to, you know, go and buy a bottle of vodka, or 13-year-olds, you know, drive a truck. They wouldn't send a 14-year-old off to war. That's where the kind of psychopathy part comes in for like a surgeon who's doing child sex changes. Either you're just totally indifferent, or maybe you actually enjoy it. I mean, it's one thing to be talking about it on social media. It's another thing to be actually putting the knife to somebody. Radio Streamer says, I just can't get over the idea of a child that may still believe a fat man with flying reindeer in a sled can deliver presents around the world in one night being allowed to make these decisions. Well, certainly. I mean, if you've got a 5-year-old, I mean, they're socially transitioning 5-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds. And they certainly think there's a fat man with magic flying reindeer delivering presents. Again, you don't have to think through this very much to start to see the flaws in the gender cult's logic, right? Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.